testing. Testing. It is 12 o'clock. So we are, thank you all so much for being here. A group is only as good as the people that come to it. So I'm really, really excited for everybody. We have an amazing group of people, so it's going to be an amazing group. My name is Sorensen. I work at a company called Vaco. I'm a recruiter, and then I'll introduce some of the people that are helping lead this HR AI function. This is Kelly. She works at KeySys, and then Beth in the back. She works at Daxko, and Shelby as well works at Daxko. If you ever need anything, want to learn more about what we're doing here, want to get involved or anything like that, speak to one of us and we will definitely help you. Also, I'm going to go ahead and mention it. There is a UAB summit that, Kelly, I don't think I put it on here.
That's okay.
I did not. There's a UAB summit for AI. Speak to Kelly if you want to get involved into the community some more. And we'll send out something after with more information. On April 10th.
Friday, April 10th.
Friday, April 10th. All day. Volunteers.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Done. Well, all right. So today we're going to go through a lot of different information. Raul, he's going to come up and speak to you all about just HR and the age of AI that we're in and really help. We're going to get started with a little bit of interactive. Who all came to last month's speech? Decent amount. How many people use Claude and Excel since then? Okay, some. Any really good use cases anybody wants to share? Come on. You want me to bring you the mic?
No.
Okay.
Does anyone else? So I got Claude after last time.
Yeah.
Access to our enterprise account. I was previously just using Gemini, and what I'm working on right now, I'm waiting for my dev team to give me a Claude API key because I'm building a, right now my ops team is doing all the letters manually. We're in Greenhouse. I don't love Greenhouse. I think it's falling behind. Sorry if anyone's like a Greenhouse lover. But I don't like their offer letter generation.
Yeah.
And my team's doing it very manually, so I'm building in Claude an app scripts flow that'll like ingest the email that has a, hey, the offer's approved, and then take the context and throw it into the 8 different templates that we have for our offer letters.
Yeah.
And then post in Slack like, hey, the offer letter's ready for review. And the governance aspect is it's not sending anything. My admin is still going in, making sure the numbers reconcile, making sure everything matches. But before, I don't know that I could have done that without Claude. So that's been fun. It's not built yet, it might break, it may not work.
Well, next month, you'll be on stage talking all about your API integrations with Greenhouse. I agree with you on Greenhouse. It's not the best system. They don't update it enough. Anybody else? Any really cool things that you figured out since we did our Claude? If you weren't here, really great session by Andrew sitting right here. He went over just probably what we've all seen in HR is this Excel document with an insane amount of data, and then you have a CEO saying, where are we? Like, where are we going? Where's our workforce development? All of these different things. And man, you upload it into Claude, and it beat Copilot 9 times out of 10, and it just did some amazing things. So it was really, really good. The next of what we're going to go through, if we could scan this QR code, there will be 3 questions. Those 3 questions, one is going to be about, what do you want to hear? So I think that's very important for us when we're going through and getting speakers. Are we finding the right people? Is it what you want to hear? You're coming here, you're spending an hour, hour and a half. We want to make sure your time is valued and exactly what you want out of this time. So there is a couple more. There's a question around where is AI at your company? If you don't know, you can just click, I'm just in HR, I don't deal with any of that kind of stuff, but you're here, so I'm sure or somewhere. And then also like, there's one question that may take you a little bit of thought, which is good, and you can answer that question throughout this session a little bit of like, what would your role be at your company to help AI, and how are you going to help employees kind of overcome some business aspects, right? Like, where do you see your role affecting change with AI? I think that's very important for us to think about. This is our mission. Birmingham AI's mission is to accelerate AI adoption in Birmingham for all. Our mission is to make Birmingham a national model for how AI enhances rather than replaces the human experience at work. We envision organizations where AI amplifies empathy, equity, and effectiveness, and where HR leaders are equipped to architect AI-ready, people-first cultures. So going back to a little bit of that question that's on that form, right? Like, man, where do you see your job really impacting this? And then this group's specific vision to equip HR and people ops professionals in Birmingham with tools, mindset, and community to lead the AI forward. Thank you to our volunteers. We always want to say thank you. And I was also supposed to put UAB's information in AI Summit, which is April 10th. Please sign up to volunteer. At this point, I will introduce Raul. He has worked at UAB for 20 years, transforming the biggest employer of Alabama's HR function. He's going to be speaking on HR in the age of AI. So, round of applause, please.
Good afternoon. Well, hopefully you'll get some valuable information out of this. Can you hear me?
Turn it on.
Is it on now?
No.
I can't see if it's
Come
on.
here. Don't call HR.
Okay.
All right.
Is this better? Yes, I can hear myself. Okay, well, hopefully you'll get something valuable out of this conversation today, and I want to make it a little bit interactive and get your thoughts and ideas because everyone is in a different place on their journey. And I'd like to start with this opening slide, kind of put everything in context of every technology that we've had over the last several decades. And the biggest hurdle is people don't know how to use it. They don't understand it. And that comes from a lack of understanding of what the tool can do. So I want to set the context of the AI structure that we are in. The first point I want to stress about is why this is different than other technology revolutions we've seen in the past. If you look at everything from the Industrial Revolution all the way till recent ChatGPT AI, everything was based on a deterministic model. That means you had a set of inputs and you always guaranteed a certain output, like A plus B is equal to C. You program those systems, whether they're machines like your cars, mechanical devices, and then similarly, that same concept of deterministic execution followed into programming languages. So all your initial programming languages all the way up to today follow the same concept of deterministic execution. So if A plus B did not equal to C, then you know there was a bug in the program and you fixed it. Whether you make that program in India, China, Russia, or the United States, didn't matter. The same program always executed based on those predetermined set of instructions. AI is a completely different animal. This is a probabilistic execution. So you're feeding in large amounts of data sets, and what's the next probable output that comes? It gives you the answer. It's not deterministic. And so the data you feed in influences the output. The same query you ask today, tomorrow you get a completely different answer. You have Gemini, you have ChatGPT, you have Claude, everyone's giving you different answers because of the data they're giving an input. And now they're talking about these controls that they're putting in, right? Like, for example, don't talk about violence, for example, or don't tell people how to make a bomb. But those controls are only so far as based on what you can tweak it. Again, it's probabilistic, so it'll always be shifting sands. And so this is a very important concept because as we try to grapple with everything that we've had in our entire life cycle of automation so far. So if you look at our industrial revolution that I talked about, it was a skills-based economy. So, no longer you had a shoemaker who knew how to make the whole shoe. No, he needed to learn how to make his part. So you hired for individual task level skills. Subsequently, we moved from task automation to process automation with ERP systems and modern electronic systems that we have in our banking systems and every industry out there, really. And so the skills that you needed as human beings shifted from task automation now to process automation. So you needed knowledge-based skills. So are you good in HR? Do you have the knowledge of compliance or regulations? And then you made your computer systems, your HR systems, do and program the systems that you want them to be. And so your knowledge as an HR professional or whether you're marketing professionals was valuable. Now we come to the third stage of an AI-based economy. Now you're not doing automation of processes anymore, you're trying to automate entire business functions with AI agents and other things they're talking about. So where do we fit in as humans in that landscape? And now it's not knowledge-based, it's abilities. Are you able to pivot quickly? Do you have critical thinking? Do you have abilities to change what your goals are? Are you being goal-oriented? And so those skills that we as humans are going to need in this new age are going to be completely different. And we have to adapt to that. There's one thing we know as human resource professionals that humans are good at is adaptability. I mean, we have changed. I mean, how many of y'all used to read the Rand McNally, those maps before getting directions? How many of y'all raise of hands here? And how quickly did y'all pivot to using Google Maps? How many, you don't even think about it anymore, right? It's something that you make a change once it becomes a habit, and then you forget about the past. And we adapt. And we've come so long in this last 30 years and with the iPhone in our pocket, and now we are able to do so many things with it. So it opens up a whole new way of processing and thinking. The second point I want to stress about as we go to this next phase of business functions is everybody today is still figuring this out. Nobody has the answers. And so when I've told you when the iPhone came out, you would have an app for everything, that whole, there's an app for that. We didn't know about that. We didn't know Uber would exist without having the iPhone in the first place, right? And that's the cascading effect certain technologies have. And the same cascading effect you're going to see with this AI-based economy. The other point I want to call out as we move to this AI-based economy that I call is the laws. And how many of you are familiar with Digital Rights Management Act and laws? Do you remember, any of you remember Napster? Okay, I saw some heads nodding. Well, Napster was a precursor to iTunes and Spotify. And that's basically people would just upload music there for free, and people were downloading music for free. The artists were getting cut out, the royalties were not going to the recording companies, and so on and so forth. And so eventually the laws caught up and saying, no, you can't download music for free. You have to pay for it. And those rights belong intellectual property rights and so on and so forth. And even today, we are struggling in a digital world. Laws have not caught up even for intellectual property. United States and a few other countries follow intellectual property rights, but you look at outside, rest of the world, they don't care. Everything is free game. And so you may have something on your computer store, they can take it from your computer, there are no laws to protect you from that theft. Even ID theft, I mean, yes, in the United States we have some laws, but worldwide there's no laws against ID theft, which is why we have such rampant ID theft happening across the board. And so laws are always struggle to catch up with technology. The second layer is your governance models, how your corporations and companies are structured around this. And so if you look back previously, what I call the human-centric organization, this was when humans were the core of production and making things. It was a very strict hierarchy. You had supervisors who made people clock in and clock out. You're watching every move of every employee. And then subsequently, as the skill level of employees went up and you had a better quality of life, a more intelligent workforce, then it became more of a standard governance. You had leadership, you had goals, you had performance evaluations, HR evolved, and HR became an integral part of an organization. You still have structures in place. But as we go to an AI-centric, some of those governance structures are going to change. And the critical part is who is accountable or responsible. And I'll give a simple example of self-driving cars. Today, if the brakes in your car fail and they see it's a systemic problem, like, okay, it's a systemic problem, let's call the car manufacturing company and I'm going to sue you because you made a faulty car. But if you have a self-driving car and it decides to, okay, there are 3 pedestrians here and 1 over here, it's safer to kill 1 than 3, and makes a decision, there's no human decision involved. And so who's liable for that accident? Is it you as a driver who's supposed to watch out for it? Or is it the car manufacturer? Or is the algorithm? And you can't sue the algorithm. I mean, who are you going to sue? Who's going to give you money? And so that whole structure of accountability and of who's going to be responsible for it, those conversations are still happening as we speak, and nobody has the answer to it. And so the flip side of that is that risk gets absorbed by the creators of the system right now. So if you're implementing a self-driving car or you're implementing AI in your organization, you have to assume all of that risk, because till you have laws in place and governance structures in place to protect you, you're completely exposed. And so you have to approach solving these problems with a very different mindset. I'm going to pause here before I move to the next section about some of the details and why HR is important. Any questions and thoughts so far? Does any of this resonate with?
Yes.
All right. So why is HR, why should we in HR care about this? Because at the center of everything, in every revolution that we've had, every conversation we have, the people are the center of it. Now, a lot of CEOs will say, people are the biggest assets, some of them are faking it, but we in HR know that is true. Because otherwise, they would not be based in the United States, for example. Why are some companies based over here, not somewhere else? Why? Because we have a talent pool. We have a pool of educated people who are able to adapt, move quickly, and we have structures and governance in place to help those organizations and industries succeed. And that's why it becomes important for HR. The second is, HR will play a pivotal role in how things get done. Because at the end of the day, you can't shift a company's organization or structure of what you do without the people involved in it. You can't just, I know you probably had the red lines, companies are firing people by the thousand and suddenly realize, we can't make this happen automated, we've got to bring them back. And so HR plays a role in that. Second is how decisions are made. And third, what skills and abilities are going to be in demand, and that's going to be a hot topic. And people are still figuring out some of these aspects. And so yes, we are at the center stage of it, and when we recognize that, we can play a more influential role in how this shapes up. People are afraid they're going to lose jobs, people are afraid of what's going to happen in the economy, they're afraid of all this. But we, as HR professionals, control that narrative, we control how that shapes up in the future. And so we have a very important role to play. IT's done its part, they created these models, so they're like, okay, done, here's the tool, go figure it out. And that's where we come in, okay, how do we figure it out and make sure we are prepared in the right way? So what can you do? First, I want to start with defining the scope of this conversation. One is AI has impact as a productivity tool. Most of you are familiar with that. Business applications, whether you're looking at HR space, you're looking at marketing, finance, all other business applications that we have within our industry. The third is industry applications, like for example, oil and exploration, gas exploration. Instead of using manual drilling and all, now you're using geospatial recognition, you're using satellite imagery, you say, okay, that place probably has a higher probability of having oil. That's shifting entire industries. We're not going to be involved with that. That's a much larger conversation, how entire industries are being shifted, like healthcare, pharmacy, all of that is being majorly impacted. But our role is more at a boots on the ground level, so I'm going to focus more on that scope. The second part is understanding the journey every organization will take on this path. And I'm going to have some conversation with you all. First is experimentation. I know pretty much everybody in this room, from what I understand from these meetings, have been experimenting with it at least. And everybody in your organization experimenting with it. But how do you go from experimentation to productivity? And that is behavior change. So how many of you all have had a session in your organization like, hey, here's AI, or here's Claude AI, here's Copilot, and then 2 weeks later they all forgot about it? And that's the shift of behavior change that needs to happen. And again, who plays a role in this? HR. You all have control learning and development, you all control performance evaluation, you all control all of those factors that go into making that change, going from experimentation to productivity. The second part is from productivity to integration into HR systems. Not just HR systems, but there's systems across your institution. That happens at the leadership level. If the leaders don't see value in the technology, they don't see how there's an ROI in this, they want to waste their time on it. And as HR professional, you all seen it, you all follow the leader. Every employee in the company follows the leader. If the leader is not doing and following through what they're saying, there will be no change in the organization. And so again, as HR professionals, we play a role in educating those leaders, coaching those leaders, helping them see the value of these products, And then you can see the change of integration happening. Once integration happens, you go to analytics, you can say, okay, I'm going to get some real valuable data from this, and then the transformation of the workforce will automatically happen at the last stage. And so these various steps, every step of the way, we as HR professionals play a pivotal role. We shape those conversations, we shape the conversation with the leaders, we shape the conversation with educating every employee out there, getting the skills over there so that when the leaders make a conversation change and saying, okay, we want to change something, the employees are ready. Because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that the people who have the knowledge in your organization, they have that, they are retained, and they are the ones who are taking the company forward versus, hey, you know what, I don't have the talent on my team, I'm going to hire somebody else. That leads to morale issues, that leads to brain drain, and then suddenly you have a company with brand new employees that don't know what they're doing. And how many of you have been in that situation before? I'm preaching the choir here with HR professionals, so it's a problem. Again, we can help in the conversation. This is where I'm going to ask you a show of hands. I know a lot of you are using HR, and this I want to make interactive. How many of you are using it for content generation? And I want each of you all to see who else is using this, so as after this session, you all can talk to each other and learn from each other. So, second one is task automation, where you're summarizing documents, transcribing meetings, resume screening, interview question generation. How successful are you all in those areas? You all seeing ROI there? You all seeing value in it? Time being saved? So can you all raise your hand one more time? And I want you all to, those who are not raising your hand, please talk to those people after this and get tips, because this is real stuff. Because if you all have to understand how they're actually gaining value from it, because they've gone to the experimentation stage to the productivity stage. The third is going to be a little more difficult. How many are using for research brainstorming, data analysis, policy interpretation, or training content development? Yeah, this is a bright group over here. This is exciting. And of course, then you have custom agents. This is going to be a little more. Custom agent APIs, we're using customized APIs, and then you're having multi-step task execution and personalized experiences. Okay, I see very few hands. So I want to talk to you all after this, so please, because that's an area we are struggling with in trying to make sure how we minimize the risk, especially when you get to the workflow enhancement, because how do you control that risk? How do you make sure there's a human in the loop? Otherwise, you lead unintended consequences. So what can you do at your organization today? I'm going to talk about these three key concrete steps that we can all as HR professionals do. First is creating an AI governance committee. How many of you all have an AI governance in your organization? So I see one or two hands up. So a lot of your hands are missing. Can I ask one of you all to volunteer why you all don't have one yet, or what's the barrier to it?
Stuck in the Wild West of things.
It's the Wild West of things.
Sure.
Are you all having conversations with your leaders about the importance of having this governance, or why this is important to put your arms around it?
I'd say yes, but it's also like they need to become aware of it. Like super senior leaders may adopt it, may not, and then have them understand what it actually means.
So you all are waiting for the leaders to start the conversation.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
We've had conversations. Leadership wants to see where it lands in terms of oversight, so that we don't have unintended consequences, like you said.
So one of the hooks I would suggest is the risk factor. Most leaders are always act on risk. They're risk averse. So if you say you have a major risk going on, and this is why when you put arms around it, you're most likely to get their attention. Some leaders who are already going to trade shows and reading about the benefits of AI, they're already forward thinking, and they're like, I want this, I don't care. And so you have those two groups, again, behavior change, right? As HR professionals, you'll understand how people crawl, walk, run, but some are always eager to already one step ahead of everybody else, and the others are going to be dragging their feet behind. And so you have to use those same techniques as you work with employees, with your leaders. Why this is important? Because if you don't have that strategy, you're going to have a risk. So if you have an employee in your organization and you have using ChatGPT, they're suddenly putting intellectual property data in ChatGPT and they're not realizing even. Because they don't know, they're trying to help the company move forward. They don't recognize the risk out there. They don't know why they can't do it. And next thing you have issue at hand. So that's why it's important to have those conversations, set those guidelines. One of the key elements I highlighted, managing risk, is a very key element for that governance. The second, of course, is principle and guidelines, policy updates, because I know a lot of you all have your lengthy HR manuals and policy books. Those will have to be looked at and approached with the new AI world, because as your work gets done differently, the risk factors will change, and what humans are accountable for will also change. So you all need to have to look at those. The second part I want to stress on this is the cross-functional elements of an AI governance. Most of your other governance models you've seen in your organization, like data governance and all, generally owned by IT, or they're owned by HR and some of the specific units. This one, because it touches every aspect of the organization, cannot be owned by one area. It has to be a joint collaboration, because this is how you do business. This is not a technology, this is not an HR problem, this is not a finance problem, this is an organizational problem. This is how you're operating as an organization. And so as an organization, when you operate, everybody has to come together, because you're changing how you're doing business. And that's why you have to have your HR, your IT, your Office of Counsel, your data security team and IT teams involved, your business leaders. Every line of business that you're doing, they have to be involved in it. Because you can't go tell somebody who's manufacturing widgets, like, we're going to change the way you're doing business. Well, do I have a seat at the table? And that's why it's important to bring them all in. The second is developing AI skills and training. This I will not talk in depth about. I want to ask you all questions. How many of you all have a training program or encouraging training for AI in your units? So a lot of you all are doing something. Do you have a structure, or it's more like go on YouTube and find stuff and figure it out? Figure it out.
We use Coursera.
Okay.
We
And-
made a LinkedIn Learning course path, and it's included in all of our new hire onboarding.
Oh wow, y'all are like rocking and rolling.
We sell governance software, so simple.
Anybody else? How are you all approaching training and skills?
We're really encouraging our leaders to drive it. Our top leaders are really bought in, and so it's coming from top down. But from an HR frame, we're working on getting better adoption through use of Udemy and these tools, and kind of push out different things like that. But we're going to make it required, to your point earlier, with onboarding, annual training, things like that.
So I would encourage you all to look at two approaches. One is the bottom-up approach. People are hungry. There are a lot of employees who are eager to learn because they're afraid and they want to keep up with it. There are two reasons they're doing it. One is they're afraid. Second is they're curious. And the curious ones are always going to move ahead. And so you want to give them guidelines and opportunities to continue to grow and be role models for other people. The second is, from the top down, is for managing risk, because you want to make sure you're giving them the right data sources and information. For example, if you all have what I call the walled garden versions of Copilot or of Claude or other AI chatbots and other bots, or even tools, you want to make sure you have the right tools for it. So I'll give a personal example from UAB. We have certain tools that are acceptable for use and certain which are not, because again, we have a lot of intellectual property or research data. You can't be uploading that on ChatGPT, because they said whatever you upload is our data now. It's fair game. And the next thing you know, that data has leaked over into somewhere else. And so you want to safeguard that institutional knowledge. So that training, at least at the baseline training of what you can use and what you should not use, that has to be incorporated. Otherwise, it'll be the Wild West. The other part about is emerging skills I want to talk about is not just how to use AI, is about data interpretation, prompt design, and all of that stuff, is about human AI workflow design. And that is something people are still figuring out. How do you make that happen? How do you put the human in the loop? We hear it everywhere, but how do you actually redesign a process? And the old school way was process engineering. How many of you are familiar with process engineering? So it's basically a skill set that a lot of corporations use. Is you have process engineers, they come in like, okay, I want to make, say, a car, and it takes 10,000 parts to make a car. What's the most efficient way to get these parts aligned, get the supply chain organized to make this, right? That's process engineering. You're basically looking at a process, or even take a simple one, an HR example of hiring somebody. What are the different steps to hire somebody? You post a job, but how do you post a job in the first place? What are the first steps? How do you start a requisition? All those different steps and how long it takes each step, how many handoff points do you have, that makes your process efficient or inefficient, and that's process engineering. But when you have an AI component, you're automating entire functions and adding humans oversight, that's a different way of looking at it. It's no longer an IT-based or a technology-based thing, it's more of a human and technology combined effect. How do you make sure that certain key decision points are validated by humans, which are important or at risk, versus what can you fully automate, and I don't need to look at it, once I set it, it's done. The other part about most people are forgetting in that a human AI workflow design is the traditional programming model. The traditional programming model is not going anywhere. It still has its value and still very useful. So how do you blend all three together to come to a really, really good solution? And that requires a different way of approaching a problem. The last one is workforce planning. This is a little more what I call the third tier of it. This is a little more advanced. Once you have an organization that's ready to move forward, they're already thinking ahead, 5 steps ahead, your CEO and others involved in this conversation. How do I prepare the workforce? Now I have a skilled workforce, they're getting more and more skilled. How will my business evolve and adapt? How do you change that? How do you prepare for that? So these are more advanced conversations at a later stage in your organization of the AI adoption and the business adoption. Now, in reality, every time you have a technology revolution, some businesses will thrive and some will go under. Why? Because those who adopt will move forward, those who cannot will struggle with it. And that's why this conversation becomes important from an HR perspective. How can I support our business from having the right talent in place? How do I make sure we are hiring the right people? And again, the age-old conversation is you hire for the job of the future, not the jobs or the skills of the past. Nobody does typing tests anymore, do y'all? Do any of you remember typing tests?
You do it for fun?
No, I'm serious. There used to be jobs. You had, for clerical and secretarial jobs, you had typing tests. You had to see how many words per minute you could type. No one's heard of them today, right? Because now things have moved. And so when you're looking to hire for the future, how are you going to grade those skills? How are you preparing your hiring managers, your supervisors, your business unit leaders to make sure they're thinking or hiring the right people? And so that conversation you all need to have with your business leaders. Start thinking about what does your workforce look like? And that's where the workforce plan will come in. The last part I want to talk about is the development of soft skills of critical thinking and source validation and combating disinformation. This is a risk that unfortunately organizations, while it's not an organizational problem, it's a problem organizations have to deal with. And you can look at the current political events. Many of you are struggling with what's true and what's not true, what news media to check or which one not to check. That's the real world we live in, and that is going to get worse. You don't even know a video that you watched, is that really true or fake anymore? Because it's become so realistic, it's really hard to determine that. The same thing can impact your organization. When you have unrest in your organization, you have rumors going on in an organization, now suddenly those rumors will take on a whole different meaning, a whole different level. How do you know if a message coming out on a spam is genuinely from the CEO of a company or somebody is faking it? How do you establish those clear communication channels to your employees and saying, this is the authoritative source, this is what we're going to communicate with you on, and these are the channels to follow? How do you combat disinformation even within your organization? If you hear something else, how do you do that? Critical thinking is another skill that, we all say we have, but when you look at each other like, nah. But it's something we all could do better at. And all of us have today is become so sophisticated, fallen trap to some of these, what I call fake news, or whether it's no longer what I call the Nigerian prince asking for money. These scam attacks have become so sophisticated that I would say the hit rate on that has gone from 5% to maybe 50%. And that impacts your organization too, in other ways where you may be leaking out private data that you may not even know about. And many times you don't even know that you're making a mistake. Sometimes they go so sophisticated you don't realize there's a problem out there. And that's why this becomes important to start coaching them and training people on. The last segment I want to leave you all with is individual. What can we as individuals do? What is, as you as an individual role, what role can you play? And I won't read through all that. One, the key again thing is, 2 things I want to focus on is your career charting. Your career will not look the same or And you have to think about how does your job roll? What does your job look like in 3 to 5 years? And are you prepared for it? How are you preparing for it? And the good news on that is the very fact you're in this room, that means you're thinking about it. And that's a positive start. But how many of your peers are thinking about that? And if they're not thinking about it, how can you help them have those conversations with themselves, with their peers, and so on and so forth? Because the more you think about it, the better you're prepared for the future. And if you look at every revolution that you've had in technology, the jobs are not lost to technology. They were lost to other humans who knew how to use the technology. Very rarely do you lose a job to technology. Every revolution we've had, all the way from the last 100 years you look at, we created more work. If you have a new tool, you create more work. It's just because it's in our human nature to create work and want to push the boundaries. It's just human nature, and that's not going to go away. It's a survival instinct. It's an instinct all of us have. So, for example, if you can cram 10 more hours in a day, and suddenly your day is, suddenly to 5 hours, suddenly your work is shrunk from 10 hours a day to 5 hours a day, what are you going to do with the other 5 hours? You're going to find more things to do. And those things are going to be, someone's going to be thinking about, okay, how do I make a better smoothie? Or someone's going to be thinking about, how do I change the business process, right? And so suddenly you're creating work. And so if we become more efficient, we don't stop working, we create more work. So I'm always optimistic about our future because we always want to create work. So again, continue upskilling yourself and make sure you're doing responsible use of AI. With that, I'm going to open up for questions and conversations. Yes?
You mentioned that there are two types of folks curious about AI. They're coming curious was one. Coming from curiosity or coming from fear. We talked about how to harness curiosity. What do you do for the folks that are engaging out of fear? Like, does their learning path look different? Do you want their experience to be different? What is a responsible?
So what is the cure for fear? Knowledge. So if you coach them and you show them and you understand, once they have an understanding of it, the fear goes away. Fear is always of the unknown. When you don't know what the future looks like, when you don't know what this is. And many people today, they don't know what AI is. They have no idea about it. They heard about it, they read in the news, but they're afraid of it. And so that knowledge will dispel that fear. It'll dispel rumors and they'll have a more comfort factor about it. And that's what that fear is more about here. You have to coach them, you have to treat them gently, take them baby steps at a time, and make them feel comfortable, really. So yes, there's a little different, but that's what humans do. That's what we in HR do. We help our employees.
You went over some emerging skills for people in HR, like AI literacy, data interpretation. How do people get skilled in that? What would you recommend for people in HR to do to learn those different skills?
Are there any learning and development specialists here? You want to answer that?
Well, I can try. It's a new field for all of us, isn't it? But I think my answer would be the same way you would upskill in almost anything else, right? And AI is pretty much everywhere now. So if you have a LinkedIn account or if you have a Udemy account, as we do, certainly using those easy skills to look for things that are specific to HR. So much of what you said today is things people outside of HR are thinking about, but it puts it into the HR realm, so I think a lot of it's transferable. I have so much to learn as well. I mean, there's probably a billion TED Talks already on this and things like that that we can apply. Some of it for a while, maybe I think transferring because there's no big, it's so new, it's so evolving that maybe it's wide open for one of you to really build something on when you learn things, as every HR person will. But that's where I would suggest at the moment. That's just a very layman.
Yes.
So I was previously, maybe 2 weeks ago, working with a client out of Colorado Springs. And they did what many of you all did, doing trainings, and the feedback that they were getting from their employees was, hey, this is information overload. Yeah. And the CEO was like, hey, we're not doing anything with this. We're just training for the sake of training. They took an entire day and did like a Claude vertical in the business. And even now, just roughly 3 weeks later, certain productivity, they've built internal apps, but we've got to take the time to actually do that work and not just train for the sake of training, but actually be actionable.
We just started that with our HR team. We just did some of that this week, and I think you have to start with us. And I think that's because then we can help others as we're working with them, but I think it is a good exercise to start really, like you said, getting into the specifics and getting into the details of it. But in a smaller caucus until we can roll it out and really talk to others, but put it on them to do it too, yeah. In their own areas.
I'll give a +1 for that. We did a hackathon at our organization. They are well loved by our engineering team and kind of a ritual in their processes. And our AI advisory board brought it to the whole org. And you can still layer kind of L&D principles into a hackathon where you think about who are your learners, what are their paths. So our folks that were like, I just give me the day to build and give me folks on my team to help me build.
Yeah.
We kind of helped match folks, or if they just wanted to run with it, they had the time to run with it. And then our individuals maybe coming more from the theater, we had a more traditional, okay, let's get on a Zoom together and look at this learning video together and talk about it and try prompts together. So it was a walk, crawl, run, but trying to meet people where they were at in a hackathon format, and then allowing everyone to join the share backs at the end of the hack. So we actually did, if you wanted to really participate, you could take 3 days. If you were more at the walk, or the crawl, it was like a half day, and then the walk was like 1 day. And at the end of 3, we brought everyone together to watch the presentations. And people still talk about it on our employee opinion surveys. And feels dated, like 7 months ago. We need to do another one.
I like that you meet people where they are. I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
You had a question or a comment?
Yeah, just a thought on how we're approaching it. So we have about 8,000 people, and we've done a utilization and like AI proficiency anonymous survey across the organization. So we're pocketing our work in different groups, and then doing more tailored learning and development for those groups. But we're also taking continued islands to it and partnering with our ERGs. So I'm the co-chair of the Women's ERG, for example. And research is showing that women are slower to adopt AI for different reasons than sort of the general public, and we're looking at some of our ERG groups and doing research there too, and then having localized training and development sessions within those to be more grassroots, understand where people's hesitancy and fears may be, and then like we kind of said, smaller and building up towards and really capitalizing on those smaller pockets for the ground up approach.
Yes, sir.
I was just going to say, to your point about the tools at the beginning, so we work with a lot of companies, large and small, and what I see is the successful companies and successful parts. I would say HR and finance we work a lot with. They really focus on what are the problems to solve. I see a lot of companies just throwing out a tool, let's figure out how to use it, everybody jump in, but there's no defined, we're trying to automate an onboarding process, or we're trying to do something. So I would say the ones I've seen successful really focus on these are the problems we're trying to solve, use cases. And then once you get in there, I think people are afraid of tools. A lot of people are. It's just, get in, do some of that training, initial training, and get your safeguards and then try it out.
You touched on an interesting topic about what problem to solve, and that's one of the interesting research topics for me. A lot of companies solve the wrong problem, and that is cost companies, I would say, millions of dollars every year. I would say 15 to 20% of every company's budget is wasted on solving the wrong problem. And that is a staggering amount, and again, that's for your process engineers. The process engineers, their role is how do I make this more efficient, but no one's asking the question, should you have been doing that in the first place? You're making it more efficient, you're spending $1 million making it more efficient, but should you do that in the first place? And no one's asking those questions, should you be doing it? And same thing in HR, you say, yes, we can do this, we can do that, but should you? And that's no one's pausing and asking that question, should you be doing this?
So I was going to kind of link what you guys said together. As far as like real world, like problem solving and not just talking about it, one thing that we did at KeySys is we had a think our non-technical people had more fun with the actual hackathon because it really made them comfortable to get down and like get their hands dirty. And then we really started thinking about, real life application, like how can we apply this to the business. So, a hackathon, it kind of sounds like, how can, if you're not a technical company or dealing with a lot of technology, how to put one of those on. It's really like just getting the team together, being creative, talking about the tools, and I would suggest maybe you do one just for fun, like less process oriented about your company, get everyone's interest peaked, see how easy it is and not intimidating that it is, and then kind of loop back and do something that's like more geared towards your business.
Can I ask a question to you all? We talked about hackathons. Is vibe coding a part of those? What was the question? I was asking as part of the hackathon for our non-technical people. Is vibe coding a part of that?
Well, one of the cool presentations was from an engineer being like, hey, I did not want to vibe code. Vibe code is you pull up, it's usually voice is the best way to do it, and you just talk about what you want to build and how you want it to work, and you're not actually hands-on keyboard where you code. You're like, this is what I want the code to do, this is how I want it to work. And the vibe aspect comes from like, nah, that didn't work, let's try it this way, and you're really just going back and forth with the AI model, LLM, and it's giving you code. Basically, the only way I can use AI is vibe coding, because I can't sit down and have my keyboard and write the full script. But our engineer who presented was talking about I was very AI resistant, but I decided for this hack, I will just fully lean into vibe coding. I will see what I can build only vibe coding, and they surprised themselves and the people on their little team. And then one of the things they vibe coded actually then became prioritized on our product roadmap and is a feature we're looking to release to customers. It's one of those cool things where a hackathon, someone stepped out of their comfort zone, but then it turned into a business mission. Sorry,
Right.
I love that.
Brian had a comment.
Yeah, we're discussing problem solving within corporations and using AI to solve a lot of problems. Dr. Kahneman notes in his book, Thinking Fast and Slow in chapter 5, cognitive ease versus cognitive load. Human nature has this desire to want to lean towards easy answers and sometimes half-baked solutions. Has there been any consideration to seeing more of that, where AI is advancing and solving problems at a rapid pace, relieving humans of that gift of cognition and true creativity and problem solving?
Well, that's a very deep topic. We've been discussing that on the academic side a lot because now you have students, because we have UAB, so UAB, our goal is one of the missions is to educate. And yes, about how do you make sure you're learning the right skills as an education institution without the shortcuts. The shortcut part is not just the education side of it, it's also the society we live in, the instant, what I call dopamine hits with social media that you're getting. And so people's attention spans have dropped significantly. And even people with the older generation, like myself included and others, like we grew up reading books, and now we are also, like I don't have time for a 500-page book anymore, give it to me in maybe a 100-page book. Can you summarize this for me? And then that is what's happened in our society in general across the board. And so same thing is translating into the workspace as well. They don't want to, even if it's a simple example of employees, when you try to hire somebody, they don't want to go through a 5-page application process. They say, here's my resume, reach out to me. They don't want to go the lengthy process anymore. So that is translating in every aspect of it, not just personal lives, but work life in every area of work life. I want to sign up for benefits. Why do I have to go to these 5 different pages? Make it happen automatically for me. So the expectations are changing from all aspects of it. And when they are solving the problem, they want quick solutions too. And then to answer the question about vibe coding, why it's catching on so much is because of the same reason, but no one is checking that code to make sure. An expert programmer is checking the code to make sure there are no bugs in it and there are no loopholes in it, nobody can hack into it, because normally we have these structures in place in normal organizations. You have a security team, you have a QA team, you have the waterfall model for rolling out a software development. Now you're just spinning it up right there and hoping for the best. And that's not a strategy a company can adopt. So you need to have those existing structures in place while leveraging this. The second part of the ROI I want to stress about, no one's thinking about, it's the same thing what happened with social media and some of the other tools that are there. And it's like the drug dealing companies. They give it to you for free. Once you're hooked onto it, someone's going to pay for it. Right now, all the data centers that all of these you read in the news are building out, they cost billions and billions of dollars. And right now, they're giving all of this for free. But at some point, when you're hooked onto your business, hooked onto it, they're going to start charging you for it. And they already they call tokens of it, right? They're called tokenization. So a token is basically 4 characters. That's what they call a token. And so if you ask a question of 20 tokens, they're going to charge you for it. 1 cent a token, 2 cents a token. They haven't figured it out yet. But if you look at the actual cost of those questions you're asking, the recipes and everything, it comes to almost $1 or $2 per question you're asking. At some point, someone's going to pay for it, because they're not going to fund this indefinitely. They're competing right now. Amazon's competing with Google. They're competing with Anthropic, competing with ChatGPT and all of that. At some point, they're going to start making money. And guess what? Who's going to pay for it? All of us. And you look at our software licenses for Microsoft, you look at all the other software systems we have, ServiceNow and all, they have skyrocketed over the years. So you still have to budget for these and realize, is there a true ROI in this somewhere that you want to invest this time and money? The second risk that you have long term is what I call AI drift. I mean, if you look at this, your AI model that worked 6 months ago doesn't work anymore today. The industry is moving so fast, you can't fully rely on it. It's not stabilized yet. So you have to take on that risk as well.
Can I just touch on that last piece that you brought up, which is really important, which is in the maturation curve of organizations using AI, there is this, you start with what we call prompt engineering, right? Or the question, you're no longer using ChatGPT as Google search, like you're actually putting together a big prompt. And then you move to this layer of context engineering, where you're using a program like Claude Code, where you're just giving it tons and tons of files, and so the work it can do is much better. But there's this third lever on top of that, or layer on top of that, called intent engineering, which is when it becomes easier to just generate tons and tons of content, and I can spin up a website, I can spin up an app, it's no longer a question of can AI do this? It's a question of should AI do this, right? And to your point about we waste millions of dollars or large percentages of budgets chasing the wrong problem, it's never been easier to now optimize for the wrong thing in your organization. And so all of those questions around leadership alignment, clear goals, clear strategy, clear plans about what we're trying to accomplish and why becomes so much more important, right? And HR leaders have a chance and a big role to play in driving that conversation, because it's no longer a question can AI do this? Of course, should it? That's the question.
Anything else? Any other questions? Any other comments? Anyone? Well, I think we have some time left for y'all to.
Yeah, I'll do a couple of things. We're going to have one more form, but that's it. Give it up for Raul, please.
Thank y'all.
I got to put that thing back on. Oh, I don't need that. Oh, this one. So, man, how good was that? Wasn't that really good? I enjoyed that. Y'all give it up again for him. Wow. It was really, really, really good. Great insights. Don't look at this. Here is our next. So our next event, right? We have a whole bunch of them now. You probably get emails all the time. If you forgot to not click the email me for marketing on Eventbrite, it emails you constantly. I accidentally did not unclick that box. So I get lots of emails from them. But you can sign up for our next one. And then also our survey. So this one's a little bit different, right? It's not asking you who you want to be when you grow up. It's more of how was this? How did you like it? What could we do better? All of those kind of things. But that, did everybody get a sign? Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Got it. Awesome. Well, we will be back here next month. We haven't decided on our speaker, so if you are interested in speaking, please talk to me, Kelly, Beth, or Shelby. We would be happy to help you all. But thank you all so much for coming. We appreciate you. See you next month.